Okay, good morning. Yes. So my name is Makoto, and today's topic is about managing a legacy Dapp. And I think I'm the first one in the blockchain or Ethereum space talking about legacies app, because such a thing usually doesn't exist. So I'm very glad to be the first legacy boring talk. Okay, and also there's a bit of irony here. So today I'm going to talk about basically how my app is in use for the last 2 years, and then like how my code evolved over the last 2 years. And also my app has been actually running in the mainnet for quite a while. So like just sharing the experience about how to run it in the mainnet. So the topic is like my app name is called Block Party. So I think people who will be interested in my talk had a good night in the last night party, so sit in the bed. That's why, here there's lots of people, but we could have more, but anyway. So let's first talk about what my Dapp do. So the problem I'm trying to solve is this called 50% problem, that whenever you organize, like today, like I have so much high expectation, and especially there's a sign-up meeting, like this is what I think my talk will be filled, and I think Trump must thought like this is a 2009 Obama's inauguration, so like he saw that, so like it must be my time, but like in his reality there's many. So as a free meetup organizer, I have like my local meetup and always struggle with like how many people I should let people sign in, all that kind of stuff. So my Dapp does very simple logic that when you sign up, you take the deposit. If you don't turn up, obviously you lose. But if you do attend, we'll share the deposit together. So people might say, hey, I went to the party and I got extra ether. So that's like when people say, oh, that's what you do. So that's the catch. And so that's the app. And how it works is like, it's actually very simple. There's only like 2, 4, 6 functions. So when people register, people call this register button function. And when people comes, one of the biggest criticisms of Block Party is like it's quite centralized right now. So like event organizer acts as an oracle that like actually manually check like okay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll count and check in. And once a party is over, admin says, yeah, okay, let's finalize the deal. So we press payback so that users can press the withdraw button. And how I've been using is, so as I mentioned, I have a very small meetup called London Ethereum Code Up, where people talk about like showing the code and stuff. So since last September, I use this Dapp in production to manage my meetup, and it's great. Before, it was always 50%, but nowadays it's like 100% attendance. So I know exactly how many beers I should buy and how many packets of crisps I should buy. That's amazing. And I'm also trying to roll it out in a bigger meetup like London Ethereum meetup. This is where I'm explaining how things work. And in the last, how many people went to DevCon 3? 2, 1. Yeah, so during the DevCon 3, I did the, hello, good morning. I did the basically meetup organizers meetup where we just basically went to the steak restaurant, and I wrote a lame blog post said like proof of steak and that kind of stuff, but that was a good steak. Anyway, then, so the result is usually, as I said, I was trying, the whole outcome of this smart contract is I want to improve the attendance rate. So how's the result? It's quite good that it's actually 90% of people actually do attend over the last 10 times I've been doing since DevCon 2. And so the payout, so how much people actually get. Like most of the time, because you get 100%, you don't get anything, except a few things. Like last year, there's an EdCon in Paris. At that time, like, I got a payout of 0.4 Ether, because at that time, Ether was quite cheap. So I put the deposit of 1 Ether as a deposit. And so this is how it went. I don't know if you guys know the Simon from Variable IO. So he was a generous one who decided not to come to my lunch, but he went to some workshop usually like I get like, how dare you? Like you say you come, but like everybody is so happy, and so that's how it works. And if you want to experience real Dapp in action, there's an event on Sunday that we just booked a restaurant for 10 people, and there's still 6 spots available. So if you're interested, please come along. And this is a whole talk. I think my mission is completed. So I could finish, but I haven't done any technical one, so I will carry on. So evolution of the code. So initially, I did the first commit in May 2016. I'm curious, how many people have Ether? Like 90%. So that means how many people have used Dapp apart from like ICO? 70%? Okay. How many people actually write the Solidity code? Still 50%. How many people writing for more than 3 months? Keep raising the hand. 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year. So 2 years is you, the Jack guy. Yeah. So I started about the same time. Like so, more than 2 years. Okay, good. So if it's more than 2 years, you should come and give a talk. But yeah, you have your own talk. Okay, good. So at that time, so I used Solidity was about version 0.3.2, and the truffle was very shiny thing that it just turned 1.0. Currently, I think truffle is 4.06, and Solidity is 3.12 or something, I think. So how the code it was like 2 years ago, it kind of looks pretty much the same as now, but can you spot what's missing? Exactly. What else? Yeah. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So one thing missing is a payable. Is I think now like default, right? But at that time, so when you register, you put the money, but at that time there's no such a keyword. And if I use a compiler of that time, there's pretty much no error. But now if I put the latest compiler, it's get full of error warning. You can't even use it. And why this is important? Because I think a couple of weeks ago, it was the first time I actually taught like blockchain stuff to the student, and then one of the stuff people are complaining like, why there are so many errors? Like, I don't need it. But there's a whole source of history to come through, and most of the stuff is more about like making more explicit keyword and to kind of cover your mistake or just forgot that kind of stuff. Now like there's lots of support, so that's something. Now you take it for granted, but during that time, like it didn't exist. And so I'm going to go through a couple patterns which evolved over time. First thing is called throw versus return. Now there's not even a keyword called throw. But when I first started, so this is when I register that if you don't have the repository, I'll throw and the stuff. But then like I went to the code up, so my own study group where people talk about code, and then when I present that code, what do you think? And I got lots of responses. Well, actually, you shouldn't throw. You should return, because the argument at that time, nowadays it's an anti-pattern, but like when it was like 2 years ago, it was some sort of discussion saying like, oh, if it's return, like if it's throw, it doesn't throw any event, so you have no idea what kind of error is being throwing, which is still the case. Whereas throw, like it's more explicit. But one thing, it was a big problem until 6 months ago, was that if you throw, it consumes all the gas to the gas limit. So what happened in October 14th? This was, I think, day before the Byzantine hard fork. Like, I did it. I used it for the Ethereum London meetup, and there's about like 10 brave people, sent 59 transactions, 13 of them got failure, because during that time I think there's what was it called? Some time bomb or like a frozen period or something. It was extremely slow. People frustrated. People put the wrong gas limit, wrong gas price, throwing errors all over the place. So to the point like that if I sum up the whole transaction, people are paying about like $50 worth of just for the gas. If you look at this, you can see lots of failed transactions. But thanks to the Byzantine hard fork, it's kind of same error message, similar like error. So here it's error, and there's a gas limit of, can you see? Yeah. There's a gas limit of 1 million. It was consuming all of them. But now that it's 1 million, but like this one says fail, but here it only consume the gas which is being used. So, and now like a new pattern is like rather than throw, there's a new vocabulary called require, assault, and revert. So that kind of stuff is, again, like now like you take it granted, but it's actually only just 6 months ago, the whole experience was completely different, right? So we've been evolving so much, and if you're doing a test RPC, it's not really the issue. But when you look at your ESA scan, if you figure out like, oh shit, like this is the money I was spending, then you have to think about all these things. Another pattern, which is still in the active debate, is pull over push pattern. Anyone familiar with it? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So what's the problem? Yeah. So first, when I went through the code, I said like register and payout, then people have to withdraw. But when I first wrote that, when I pressed payout as an event organizer, it was paying out to everybody. So like people only register once, which is a good user experience. But now people, after who survived this harsh period? The DAO. Yeah, who bought the DAO token? Yeah. So like that was the first token I bought, and at that time I didn't even have Ether, so I had to borrow from my friend. You should never do that, But yeah, that was hard. But after that, like so, one of the exploit pattern was probably you can't see the code, but there's a typical like a recursive pattern that like so when someone called a function, it can be the someone could be the code itself. So code has a fallback function, so you can do that kind of loop. So the best pattern right now is rather than contract payout to everybody, you should go and pull yourself. It's like, yeah, security, like all the smart contract best practice, yeah, good. But what's the consequence if you actually do it is that, so my contract is like you have to withdraw. But this graph shows that, so majority of people, about 50% of people, withdraw the money within the 1 day. I said, you can take the money. And I'll really like push over like Twitter, because when people register, I put the Twitter, ask people to put Twitter address, because one of the problems with Dapp is you can't tell the people. So I go in Twitter like, withdraw, because if there's a bug found, that money is at risk. So for me as an organizer, I really want you to withdraw. But people are lazy, so half of the people, 10% of the people still don't withdraw even at spending 1 week. What happens in 1 week? Yeah, so no one knows because no one has read the code. And yeah, people don't really read the code. But if you look into it, there's a magical function called clear that if it goes over the cooling period, default to 7 days, event organizer can steal your money. So that's the law. I hard code. I even tell the people. Then I even tell to the people over Twitter, to one of the most experienced people, this guy is called Kumabis. He's actually the creator of MetaMask. Even he still can't get bothered to take the money. So what do? Like as an organizer, yeah, I wrote as a code, but I still feel bad. So I asked like, should I give it to charity or should I just take it? I did a polling. Then I decided, yeah, okay, I'll take it. The intention at that time was during Christmas season, so maybe I'll take it, I'll give it charity, but even myself get lazy, so I didn't do that. What happened? My account got compromised. So one thing is like, I think in a smart contract, people pay more attention, you do the audit, and they can make sure like, contract is bulletproof, but people pay less attention to the account itself. So and usually on the deployment account is almost like you have to treat as a throwaway account. So you shouldn't have lots of money. But one ether like 6 months ago wasn't that lots of money. And as a lazy person, I kept accumulating all the money I didn't steal, but like I cleared. That's called clear taken. So why that happens? That was a problem. So what actually happened is in the deployment code in Truffle.js, until July, I had a node, a guest node on my local machine, syncing and then deploying. But during that time, syncing got too long, and I was using a fast mode or light mode. Oh, 7 minutes left. Okay, I had to go very quickly, but still not good. So I changed to use this kind of remote way to deploy to the inferior. But like whatever I write in the to-do is command honchu, think about more secure way. Argument mnemonic. So I was passing through the mnemonic as a flat file, and then where I stored, it was in my configuration file, unencrypted, so it's got stolen. Am I the only stupid one? Well, I asked my friends here, Twister Sphere, and they actually, yeah, like 30% of people still do the same setting. So this is a kind of common problem we have. And one of the stuff is, there's lots of standard accumulated in something like a consensus smart contract best practices. But something like this is still not thought out, because first, people really don't deploy to mainnet, so people don't take that seriously. And second, because this is kind of not in the smart contract area, it's not shared. I think this is a bug bounty there, so I recommend like if you're doing on mainnet already, you should contribute. And so last thing is, yeah, how many minutes? 5 minutes, yeah. So running on mainnet. So lots of things I had to worry about. It's all about gas price. Again, last year, so this column, this is a total gas price each user spends, and this is the gas price I spend as an admin, including the contract deployment code. And apparently I put 0.1 ether. That's quite a lot as a organizing one event. But I did manage to fix that. How did I fix that? There's no rocket science. It's just matter of the fact that if you go to Truffle default gas price is 100 gwei, which is very expensive. So like if you just don't set anything, you just throwing money at it. So that was a fix, easy. But you only realize when you start deploying in the mainnet. Second thing is, yeah, average gas price each user was paying. During this time, it was like 13 gwei. And it suddenly went to 1 gwei. So how did it like sudden? So like in the MetaMask, you can change the gas price by yourself. But most of the time, people don't pay attention, so people put whatever. And I think default is 5 or 10. So that's the default price. So half the people basically don't know about that feature. So hence just put whatever stuff. So the quick fix was in Web3.js, you can put the, I think, gas price as an option. So like if you set it, you can enforce in MetaMask. So I put the 1 gwei because I thought like now price is, this was after the hard fork. So yeah, now like it's cheap enough, like scaling issue is over, I thought. Then who imagined like, CryptoKitty comes to the point like I couldn't even deploy the December. And so this is still the setting. So if you find out interested in coming to on Sunday, still set to 1 gwei. But if you do that, depending on the timing, it gets too cheap. So 2 weeks ago when I did in Ethereum London, I just set as 1 gwei. And there's a guy came in, said, hey, I registered last night, but my transaction still hasn't arrived here yet, but can I still come? So like, it's irony, like, people is faster than the transaction. So I still haven't fixed that issue. So if you register, please go to Ether gas station and check what's the average and the cheapest price and use that. Otherwise, yeah, until the, I think once transaction pending, I can see what data you put, which I can see the Twitter account. But while it's pending, I can't really see what, that's your transaction. And 2 minutes. Another thing is, one thing I started doing around June when Ether price is going up, I started writing the test script to measure each function, how much it's going to cost. And also because my app is meeting up, I wanted to know how many people realistically I can deploy. So I had a scenario like how much it costs if it's 2 people I host, 20 people host, 200 people I host. And before I had a problem on the linear scaling issue that this payback was taking 4.5 million gas, which was like about, at that time I think total gas limit of the one block of was 6 million. So I already knew back in June, my smart contract couldn't scale more than 300 people. And so the fix I did is very, very easy. I had where I did a payback, I was going through all the participants and I was marking the amount I should give back. So that means you are setting the state of each participant and setting the state. And this is I think it goes to the disk, not to the memory. So that's the most expensive, one of the most expensive gas costs. So I just changed to set to the global price and then calculating. That alone, I think, changed to scaling to the constant gas price so that my contract is infinitely scalable. So that's kind of easy stuff. Again, you have to keep measuring it. I think that's power. There's 2 minutes. Power measuring. So like I was very happy. Like I feel like yeah, I'm doing the refactoring and I'm solving big problem. But be careful with refactoring too much because whenever you do that, you bring in more bugs. So this I got like 3 or 4 bugs so far, and this was a harsh, bad one because this was a bug. Like if instead of payback, I have a special function of cancel. If there's owner says I will cancel the payback, even if you are not registering, anyone can withdraw the money as many times as possible. So that was harsh. But yeah, that could kind of things happen, so be careful. And so now is a summary in 30 seconds, I think. So lessons learned is kind of solidity, things keeps evolving. And so as best practice. So, yeah, and some things is very obvious, like, don't use a default price on truffle and stuff. It's so obvious, but like until you put it in the mainnet, you don't realize. But how do you learn these kind of stuff? So if people, I think people had a fun time in party, so you guys missed probably 80% of my talk. This is a point. Focus. You need a lot of concentration. How do you learn? So people are busy at building like rocket, like to the moon. But if rocket to the moon, first thing is just explode, go like massive, right? Yes, I understand your goal is moon, but let's not start from this situation. I think what you want to start is this kind of situation that yeah, it fails, it's kind of painful, but it doesn't take your life or no one sues you. So let's think about the way that even I think it's powerful that smart contract can control your money whatever you like, but try to think about staking small way because so Simon, who gave the legal talk talking about how all the upset user can sue me, hasn't sued me yet, even though he lost 1 Ether. Because at that time, I think stake was relatively small. So that kind of stuff. And then also, this is specific to my app, but to exploit in fully, except a few certain edge cases, you have to register, you have to come, and you have to have a nice party and wine and dining to the point it's very hard to exploit my code because you already met. So if you have some sort of way of verifying who you are, and even though there's a bug, there's a chance that they just tell you in a pub rather than exploit and take the money. So in the very beginning, I think it's good to have you in a safe sandbox situation. And lastly, I think some people might think this is a cheat talk because when you talk about legacy talk, probably I talk about upgradability, right? If you're interested in that, just look into Aragon's repo. They do that very complex upgrade policy. But in my case, I just deploying each contract every time. This is possible if your contract doesn't rely on so much on the past data. Because in my case, yeah, it's nice to have the participants' information, but it's not a big deal if I throw away. Most important thing is that payment logic happens. In that case, rather than designing the infinitely scalable design fast, I think what I want to establish first is the interface. Once the interface is set, then you can start doing maintenance stuff. But in the early case, I think it's very important just deploy as through our code, even though you might spend a lot of time, a bit of money as a deployment cost. And thank you. And yeah, this is another important thing. There's 6 spots left, so come and join me on Sunday. Thank you very much. I think there's no, is it question time or should we go to the next one? Is it question, do we have time for question or should we go to the next?
Yeah, one question.
Yeah, any burning question? Yes. Do we need mic or shall we, you want to just shout? Or? Oh, there's a, yes. Scary looking like, I'm going to shut you down. Bring it on. Yes.
Hi. So you mentioned just now about deploy often, right? So I want to know your strategy of upgrading your contracts. Do you have like proxy contract or how you handle like how you update your agent or your web app in your Dapp to know you updated your contract
Did you
address?
just come right now? Because I just mentioned now that currently I don't.
Okay.
And the reason because is currently I'm focusing more on the establishing the interface. So most of the time I just throw away. Yes, some of the project that would be the problematic once you fully like it came out of beta, but mine's still in the alpha phase. I'm in alpha phase for almost 2 years just to experiment with a different way of interface. So yeah, answer is if you're interested in that one, like look into Aragon's source code. They have a very complex method. Okay, thank you very much.